Give me your ratings or your rankings for each Kendrick Lamar album before Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers.
Untitled Unmastered is probably my favorite Kendrick project. Like front to back, that's probably my favorite.
That's new.
Good Kid, Mad City, legendary. Damn to Pimp a Butterfly, Section 80, but I feel a little bit disrespectful for putting Black Panther at the bottom because I felt like that was a pretty good compilation. It just wasn't a Kendrick project, album. You know.
So if you want to, you can take it off and say,
yeah, let's leave that in the.
All right.
Let's leave that to the side.
Good Kid, Mad City for me, number one. Again, amazing debut album. For me, honestly, these next two are almost interchangeable depending on the day. Damn and Section 80.
Okay.
Damn and Section 80.
See, I like Section 80 Kendrick because it's a raw Kendrick. It's a Kendrick that's not. He hasn't met all of these producers that has helped push his sound to another level yet. It's just a very raw rapper, but it's an undeveloped sound. It's an underdeveloped sound at that point. So that's like if you're a Wiz fan, it's like your Kush and orange juice.
Yeah. To Pimp a Butterfly, Untitled Unmastered. Cool. So we gave our rankings. Let's talk Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. Let's actually get into it. Kendrick dropped his 5th solo studio album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, on Friday, complete with features from Kodak Black, like I mentioned, Summer Walker, Baby Keem. It's basically like and this is weird, but I thought it was weird, because usually his albums are very theme heavy and everything kind of directly relates to the theme, whereas this one is kind of every song is loosely based on an overall theme of basically him being in a therapy session.
Yeah.
A little different for him, but I think he does have some albums where he kind of does that. To Pimp a Butterfly, for example.
It felt a little disjointed, just a bit, just because like you said, the concepts that we went from grief in '95, I felt like was more political unrest, right? Like, or the state of the culture a bit.
It was, yeah, state of the culture for sure. So it was more like talking about taking off your mask,
mm-hmm.
right? Like taking off the things that, make you feel like, confident. Like take off the jewelry, take off all of that stuff.
Yep. And
show me who you are unmasked.
Father Time, man. Definitely can spend some time here because this was a very, very introspective track, at least for me.
The thing that was interesting about Father Time is so often in rap songs you hear about the absence of a father playing a huge factor.
He talked about some of the toxic things that he got from his father. Not even all toxic. It was just more so of it's a weird cycle, right? Because it's not of the same. I feel like of the same structure as typical family drama that perpetuates itself. It's like you get hurt, so then you end up passing that hurt on to someone else. It's not like that. It's more systemic. Because in my mind, like, right, obviously I have a black son, right? So I know even through the 29 years of life that I have that we have to conduct ourselves in a certain way. We do have to have a certain shell to survive in this world. We have to.
Yep.
And so does that lead me to be stronger or harder on my son than maybe I would be on a potential daughter? Absolutely. Because I understand that the world may marginalize my daughter and they may, they will dismiss her and put her in a box and forget about her. And I understand that because that's what's been done to black people. But they see my son as a threat.
Mm-hmm.
They seek to destroy my son at any cost because he's a threat.
Mm-hmm.
You have to realize that on a certain level, even if you don't ascribe to it the same way I do, you do have to understand at least the dynamics that exist.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's a hard cycle to say, don't overmasculate your son. Show him love and compassion and softness, because that's not what's out there.
Yeah.
It's just not.
The world will eat him up if you don't give him at least a little bit.
You have to give him a shell. You have to. I heard him like when he was talking about how I think his dad was talking to him about how he was crying every time he would get upset. Like that is a picture right out of my childhood. Like I could get so frustrated and all I could do was cry. And then somewhere along the lines that turned into every time I got frustrated, it turned to anger.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a weird thing, man. And you start out with the best of intentions, but somehow it kind of forms into what it's going to form into anyways. Because the flip of that is if you coddle your children or you try to give them the most precious of lives or the most softest of realities, they end up in for a rude awakening, or they set themselves up to be in a situation they're not equipped to handle.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, Father Time had me thinking for a while. It's crazy.
I feel like that for me was probably the first, like, oh, this is what kind of album we're getting from Kendrick.
Yeah.
Extremely deep, extremely, as we talk about it a little bit more, extremely vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Probably one of the most vulnerable I've heard an album be in quite some time. But yeah, that was probably one of the first ones that like stuck out to me. The next song that stuck out to me was the one that everybody's talking about, it seems like, We Cry Together with Taylor Page, where Kendrick and Taylor Page are just going at it for what seems to be, 3-4 minutes?
No, you bitch. No, you nigga. No, fuck you, bitch.
You know what's crazy?
No, fuck me.
Somebody had an edited version of that song. And it's literally just
So, okay, there were things that I liked about this song. There are things that I didn't like about it. I felt like there were a couple spots where the perspective was a little biased, and I don't feel like that did anything to elevate the conversation.
Explain that.
Okay, so there was a part in there where Taylor Page, that's the chick in there, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So she's talking to Kendrick about his mother issues,
mm-hmm.
right? And how he basically womanizes to make up for those woman issues,
mm-hmm.
right? As true as that may be, because I mean we can flip that the other way and say we've ran into plenty of women with daddy issues, right?
For sure.
Is that anything that we haven't already been saying for generations on top of generations? Is that new information that men womanize when they have mommy issues and women seek attention in older men when they have daddy issues? Like, similar to what we were just talking about with Father Time, how he elevated the conversation from absent black fathers to just black fathers in general.
Mm-hmm.
I would have liked to seen a little bit more of that here. It seemed more just, all right, let me give you my male perspective, let me give you my female perspective, and it wasn't anything that kind of put it on a different plane.
If I remember correctly, when she said that, he responded back with something like, oh, my mom got you that car that you driving, or something like that. So you would have rather seen him kind of attack her from the other side, like
I mean, okay, so from my perspective, if you're gonna say that, number one, I don't think anything like that when we're talking about what men go through or women go through, I don't think it's ever gonna be received the way that you're meaning to do it when you're talking about women as a whole. If I just walk into a room full of women and be like, women always do this because of this, it's not going to get through. It's not going to permeate. It's going to be like I'm just throwing it into the abyss. I might as well just go smack a hornet's nest.
Yeah.
Same thing in the inverse. You have a woman walk into a room full of men and say, all men are this because of this, and you're going to get the same thing.
Sure.
If I say women who feel this way or feel a certain way about men, right, who view men in this way, ask yourselves this. Ponder this. This is the data. This is how you feel. That's your perspective. This is what it is. If I change the conversation from all women do this because of this, all men do that because of this, or if I isolate your point and work it through with you, I feel like it's a lot to be gained from that. Now we talking actual like conversation right now. We're not talking about the whole rap track. I know there's only so much you can do
I was
in
going to
a
say,
track.
I think the only reason I didn't look at it that way is because like there were several lines in this song where it was like, okay, maybe this isn't something to basically take line for line and try to decipher.
I mean, but
everything.
even when we get into the meat of the track, it devolves into, which is a typical fight if you've been in a relationship for a long time. But
I
like,
know so many people.
oh
who've
yeah,
got
you know, I
arguments
should have fucked that other nigga. His dick was bigger. Blah blah blah. Like, okay, fine. And as real as that may be, it's kind of like Tyler Perry films. We all know that shit happens somewhere in our family. But are we helping? Like, is it doing anything to reproduce it and show it? Again, there were parts that I felt like were better than others. It's just a few of them stuck out to me, and I just wanted to get past it. I was like, okay, well.
So let's go into another song that, from what I've seen on the timeline, has prompted a lot of discussion. Is Auntie Diaries.
My auntie is a man now.
Which, if one is toxicity as being a father and another is toxicity in a relationship, this is toxicity as it pertains to black homophobia or transphobia.
This is another one that I didn't take issue with, but I just worried about what the message is, because I don't like the idea that the tabooness or the kind of misinformation or miseducation around LGBTQ or transgender identities or rights is isolated to black people. And I don't like any type of juxtaposition that puts us in that light, as if we are the ones. Like don't get me wrong, man. Like I understand to a certain degree from the standpoint of having family members who have had to come out, and back further in the day you just had to pretend like it wasn't, like it wasn't a thing, or you may ask about a certain person walking in. It's two women walking in together. You may ask a certain question, that kind of stuff. And I get that aspect. I'll never understand the actual experience of it, but I can understand it from that standpoint. When I think about the oppression, at least from what I can see from me just being an outsider from that community, when I think about the oppression of that community, I think of people seeking to take their rights away, seeking to oppress them in some sort of way, right? Someone trying to eliminate their existence or to take their basic civil liberties away. I'm just saying there's family trauma, there's learned ignorance, like he said in the track, and then there's bigotry. And those two things are not, I don't like the conflation between the two, because we can look outside of our community and see bigotry up and down the list. Legislation's put in place, businesses refusing to do business, and every one of those stops, you do not see black people leading the charge as if it's pro-black to be anti-gay. I don't see those charges. Or it's pro-black to be anti-trans. I don't see that push.
I agree with that, but is there not a homophobia? I don't even want to call it a problem. It makes it sound bigger than what it is. But is there not an issue with homophobia?
Then again,
and
let me ask you this
community?
question. Let me put it in a different light. Is our issue with trans identity any different than any other communities? Do we have a special? Do we have a special type of problem? Because this is likening it to what we were just talking about with Asian Americans a year ago. Is our problem with Asian America that much different than the rest of America, that it needs to be highlighted and segmented as its own special kind of hatred?
No, but Kendrick can only speak to it in the black community because he's not white.
No. If you are ascribing a name to it, if we're talking about transphobia or homophobia, that is not something that you want to isolate to your people and only your people.
But he can only relate it to him and his people because
the situation not true. He lives in America. No, he lives in America. You're American. You can talk about transphobia in America without positioning it as if it's a problem with your community, as if we're the ones driving it, as if it's on our backs to fix it.
But you're also talking about in his perspective in the song, he's rapping. Well, actually, I heard he was rapping as Shireen, but whatever.
Oh, it was Shireen's auntie. It wasn't his
Well,
auntie.
no, because he says Demetrius is Marianne now. We heard about Demetrius and Shireen.
I thought Demetrius was the auntie's younger cousin or younger.
So they're all related.
So
The last time we heard about Demetrius was
Demetrius and Shireen. Wait, Shireen is Demetrius?
No.
Oh, I was about to say,
No.
fam.
No. Shireen is related
It's his
to
old
Demetrius.
girlfriend. Okay, Shireen is Demetrius's cousin,
Yeah.
and Shireen must be the niece of the auntie.
That's what I've heard.
Okay,
yeah.
I get it now.
Because the last time we've ever heard of a Demetrius was in Shireen.
Got it.
Anyway, it almost sounds as if he's talking about somebody who's spent at least most of their time within a black community. Compton, for example.
That's not necessarily my problem, because that part is lived experience, right? You can't change that.
Mm.
My problem is the conflation between the bigotry that they receive in America, which is what he's describing, as opposed to what's happening in our community, which is okay. Without trying to explain away ignorance or trying to excuse it, you cannot expect hundreds of years of a standard to then be bucked and there not to be a curve or some type of pushback or some type of resistance. That is just human nature.
Sure.
Now, there's that, and it could still be driven by ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
There is that, and then there are people who don't necessarily, who know that they're ignorant to the situation. They have enough information to know what is true and what's not, but seek to destroy in spite of that. There's ignorance, and then there's diligence to destroy.
I hear that, but in the context of an album where he's in a therapy session, he can only speak on his lived experience.
I get it, but this is Kendrick Lamar we're talking about, first of all.
Yeah.
Right? You have the biggest platform on the world to tell people what the reality of Black America when it comes to LGBTQ identity is. So that can't be replicated. That there's a responsibility involved with that. Because there's no way. How do I fight that?
But then you're taking the song out of its actual context, and
I don't think I am. I'm displaying the words that he's saying.
Not you. I'm saying if somebody were to take it out of the context of the fact that he's speaking on his supposed lived experience, then yeah, it's going to sound much worse because you're taking it out of context as a whole.
I don't think you need to really expand too much off of what he said to get a expanded view of what he feels like the Black community as a whole. Yes, he's using the story to describe it, but he's not just only talking to him and his family. He's not only talking to his folks. He's not only talking to Compton. The story is a vehicle for the message. If the message ain't right, it has to be called out. That's how I took the song. Mm-hmm. Didn't dislike it. Just I felt like we could have, much like the track with we cry together, there could have been some stuff tweaked in that.
I think there's only one other song that would be worthy of a deep dive, which would be Mother I Sober, where he kind of just let out everything. It seems like the most vulnerable thing I think I've ever heard a rapper do.
I can quickly give some of the other ones that I liked. Side B was a go for me for sure. Silent Hill was dope.
And I don't know where Kodak came. Well,
Savior
Kodak
was
every
fire.
now and then he's good for a
No,
decent
you know
verse.
what? You know why I'm upset with Kodak? Because if this is how you can rap with K-Dot, if this is how you can rap when somebody actually make you go back and rewrite the verse, then you're not working hard enough, bro.
Oh no, for sure.
You're not working hard enough. Because even the biggest song you got out right now, my son loves it, by the way. Super Gremlin. It's not this.
But I've heard
nothing
him
you
on
said on Super Gremlin is harder than what you said on this album.
I heard him on like Lockjaw with French Montana, and that was really good too.
I will never be listening to this at any club or bar. Meaning the Kendrick album.
I felt the same way about To Pimp a Butterfly though.
But see, To Pimp a Butterfly,
it did have
had
radio
King
songs.
Kunta, it had We Gonna Be All Right, had those, it had them. So this doesn't have not that the songs aren't joints, but he doesn't have the one that was made to be the joint.
Yeah,
I felt like that was purposeful, and I appreciate that. You know what this is? This is a a slightly better crafted For Your Eyes Only.
Oh yeah.
Slightly better crafted For Your Eyes Only. Same kind of concept, dealing with a little bit more larger issues, not so much
more intricate.
Yeah.
Much more vulnerable.
I still think it missed on a couple of those swings, but in any case, I think it was an overall better project than For Your Eyes Only. That's a low bar, but
okay. So at the no,
yeah, that's a low bar. But in any case,
so at the beginning of the video, I asked you to list where your albums were. So where does Mr. Morale? It's only been 4 days. Well,
right.
I guess by the time we release this, 5 days. No, 4 days.
4 days.
But you got to put it somewhere in that list. Maybe at some point we'll come back to it, but
I don't know, man. I'll put it in between Section 80 and To Pimp a Butterfly. So right above Section 80, but behind To Pimp a Butterfly. So that'll put it at 4.
I think I'm going to put it in between To Pimp a Butterfly and Untitled Unmastered, which was my last.
Same position. You just got the songs all fucked up.
There are some songs from Untitled Unmastered that are amazing.
Get down on the phone, say he won't be long.
But to put it number one,
I see styrofoam. My hood going crazy. Where did we go wrong? It's a tidal wave. It's a thunderdome.
Levitate, 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 levitate.
Tell us what you thought about the album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, K-Dot's 2022 release. Where does it rank in your albums this year? Is it better than It's Almost Dry? Give us your rating. Let us know what you thought. Like, share, and subscribe.
For sure. And make sure you check out our album review playlist. We talk about pretty much every album from 2022 and 2021, at least the big ones. And make sure you subscribe because we will be talking about plenty of other albums as they release in 2022.